What's up, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, social media world? Welcome to the video feed for episode 27 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall and me, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We've got a very exciting episode for you today. I say that every week just because that's kind of a thing to say. I spent too many years in marketing, so I feel a need to attach an adjective to everything that I do, and exciting is, as I guess, going to be the one this week. So whatever, but we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. We are definitely in the grips of another wave of COVID madness, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Depending where you are in the world, especially in this country, could depend on kind of how your community and your city and your neighborhood are dealing with things. So of course we're going to talk about a little bit about that with it being Common Sense Sundays. All that being said, let's get into episode 27.
1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers. Welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall. This is episode 27. And I am, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. Oh, this was my birthday week this week, so I'm kind of catching up on some things still throughout the week. When you go, it's this, and this year it's a little bit different, obviously, but it's this 1, 2, 3 punch that my household gets in November because we go daughter's birthday. She turned 4 on the 11th. My birthday is always on the 18th, and then we go into Thanksgiving. It's like boom, boom, boom. Now Thanksgiving this year is a little bit easier to navigate as far as like moving parts because I don't have a bunch of guests coming over. Usually my house is fairly packed on Thanksgiving. Same thing with Christmas, and it's going to be a little bit different this year. But yeah, it's that 1, 2, 3 punch, and I'm still recovering from the second punch, and now we got the third one coming right in front of me here that I can see it coming. Luckily, my wife is going to have some extra time off this week, so it's going to be good for her to recover. All right, that being said, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, before episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that at multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Make sure you like our page, check back often for updates, and make sure you click the notifications on there. Then you're going to know when new episodes come. Now, obviously, podcast episodes, they come out weekly. So you don't, but other content will also get posted there, and we don't have a schedule for a lot of other content. So make sure you're on facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Of course, YouTube. Head over to YouTube if you're a YouTube user. Search Go Tell It to the Wall. Subscribe to our channel. That's where you're going to find all of our video feeds after the fact, as well as our Mental Health Monday playlist, our parenting playlist, our beer reviews, all of that good stuff, and even our old live feeds from Go Tell It to the Wall podcast when we were doing Thursdays, which we will get back to eventually after we come out of this COVID madness and I get back a little more control of my studio that I've been sharing for 9 months now. And of course, Instagram, you can follow my own personal Instagram, which is SoCalSean. That's right, SoCalSean. All kinds of cool pictures that I put up there. I'm definitely not as cool as a lot of other Instagram users that you're going to come across, but you're following everybody anyway. Get some of my photos up in your feed. Again, SoCalSean on Instagram. And of course, most importantly, all inclusive of those things I just mentioned would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Bookmark that one. And if you can't remember all the other platforms that I just gave you, you can link directly from there. So that'd be the most important one to remember is SeanO'RourkeLive.com. You're also going to find photos that you don't find anywhere else, videos you don't find anywhere else, blog posts that aren't posted anywhere else. So that is really your best resource. You're also going to find links to multiple podcast platforms. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you've probably already got your podcast platform, but there's other options on there if that's something you're looking for. And of course, Patreon. Please help us out financially. I've talked enough about Patreon. You guys know what it is if you've been listening to podcasts at all. Help us out. Help other artists out. If you have the means to do it, nobody needs to break the bank to support some independent broadcasters and artists and musicians and stuff. But if you have the means to do it, help us out. Help out. Go Tell It to the Wall. Help out someone else. And of course, our merch page. You can link directly to our merch page from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Get yourself a t-shirt. Holidays are coming up. Weather's getting colder. Get yourself a Go Tell It to the Wall sweatshirt, maybe a coffee mug. You can sit there in your Go Tell It to the Wall sweatshirt in front of a roaring fire with a nice cup of coffee, hot chocolate, whatever you prefer. Tea. I'm not a big tea drinker myself. My wife drinks a lot of tea. Sometimes I come in the kitchen, I'm like, what is that smell? She's got some funky teas, and not like bad smelling. It's just you don't expect it. Like you know, you're like, what? Oh, somebody's making tea. All right. So please help us out there. If you know, everybody needs t-shirts, sweatshirts. You need these things. You got to clothe yourself. You may as well clothe yourself with some common sense. Go tell to the wall merch. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. I know I just mentioned we have this 1, 2, 3 punch, and Thanksgiving is the third punch in my household. And I don't mean that like it's a bad thing. It's just boom, 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 and then we right into the holidays. But happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. We're going to talk a little bit more about Thanksgiving in regards to COVID, but I will say celebrate responsibly. Make sure you're, you know, one like quick holiday where you just eat and watch football. One of those without your family it's a small sacrifice to make to then be able to have more of those in the future. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But happy Thanksgiving to all the Wall fans out there. This is going to be the last episode before Thanksgiving, obviously. We used to do Wednesdays. For those of you that are somewhat new to the podcast, in the past year, essentially, we used to do Wednesdays. The day before Thanksgiving was the one day really that we would, outside of like this, you know, the Centibration and stuff, that was the one day where we would not record on a Thursday because of Thanksgiving. This year, that's obviously not happening because right now we're recording on Sundays. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. And thank you to everybody. I know, and I'll say it again for those of you that don't remember, I don't do the happy birthday posting on Facebook. I stopped it years ago simply because I would forget someone and I'd feel bad, and I'm 1,000% sure no one ever noticed, like, oh, where was my happy birthday message from Sean on Facebook? Nobody cares. But I just, because of forgetting, I stopped doing it, with the exception of, like, my parents, like, bigger birthdays, and obviously my daughter and my wife, you know, those are obviously the exceptions. So I don't do those, but I do appreciate everyone posting on my wall, sending me text messages, phone calls, and everything else. Got multiple phone calls with happy birthday renditions sung to me via the phone, whether it be video call or just phone call. So thank you to everyone out there that did wish me a happy birthday. It was an odd year, but here's the thing: is we're all in this same boat together. I think everyone's getting a COVID birthday. It's, you know, back in March I wouldn't have thought this. I think I mentioned that last episode, like, oh, we're still going to be doing this in November, but now it's pretty normal. And everybody, COVID birthdays all around. We've got 3 more months, and then everybody's had a COVID birthday, because it's essentially starting in March. So once we get through December, January, February, and everybody's had a COVID birthday. That's just how it works. All right, let's get into some digital trends. We got some good ones this week, and actually some ridiculous ones and some good ones. Hashtag Toy Story 25. I felt the need to point this out and bring it up if you haven't seen this one on social platforms. Personally, I think I'm just not quite in the right age range to be a huge Toy Story fan. I think if I'd been a little bit older when it came out, I would have had a certain appreciation for it. Or obviously, if I'd been much younger, I would have had, you know, that obvious real appreciation for it. Never had it. I like the movie. You know, I like it, but I was never a huge fan. But I do recognize that there's such a huge fandom for Toy Story. I worked at Disney when Toy Story 3 came out, and it was wild just to, and you know that people are aware that Toy Story is a huge entity for Disney and Pixar, and that people do love it and they gravitate toward it so much. But man, being there on the ground, like when Toy Story 3 came out, I've even got the studio edition sitting in my DVD collection that people are selling those things for like $500. It was nuts. But so I've seen it. I know the fandom behind Toy Story, and it's 25 years ago today that Toy Story hit theaters. And just to think about kind of how Pixar's done since then. Even if you're not a huge fan of the movie, you know, like myself, I appreciate it. But just to think of Pixar's kind of path over the years, starting with Toy Story and that propelling Pixar into the mainstream and being a household studio name, and then obviously the attachment with Disney, and now being a part of Disney, it's just amazing to kind of look at that path. So hashtag Toy Story 25. John Cleese is also trending on the social platforms right now, not for good reasons. He's and apparently, that's what I always say. Everyone is horrible. This is the thing. Let me point that out. Like I've said it before, everyone is horrible. You can't just put all your apples in one basket with certain celebrities and everything. Stuff's going to come to light. We talked about Gina Carano last week, and now we got John Cleese. And I guess we've known this about John Cleese for a while. But he's been sending out some hateful tweets, very, very hateful, specifically regarding transgender stuff. Which what the hell is going on with English people? And I'm not saying all English people, but I'm saying like we have J.K. Rowling and now John Cleese. Like, and here's the other thing too. I fully recognize there's lots of people out there that have these same views. It just blows my mind. And I don't know if John Cleese is just trying to become relevant or stir a pot or what. Blows my mind. You know you're not going to get a good reaction to these things, but there you go. You just throw them out in the universe. So John Cleese, trending right now, but not for the right reasons, because he's a hateful son of a bitch, and we don't need any of that. All right, hashtag disappoint your family in 5 words. Just in time for Thanksgiving. This is trending on the social platforms. And, Thanksgiving, I feel like, is a great time to disappoint your family. You're not going to be traveling this year. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to COVID. People are traveling, shouldn't be. But you're not going to be seeing as much of your family this year, obviously. It's like, but this one just really makes Thanksgiving is usually the perfect time to disappoint your family. So hashtag disappoint your family in 5 words. Check this one out. People are having fun with this one. I obviously went straight to it. My 5 words would be, I'm going to film school. Yes. Now, my family's very supportive, especially my parents. It wasn't a huge thing that I went to film school, but I do remember a few instances from a little bit from my mother, like, oh, my son's not going to be a doctor. He's going to go to film school. But definitely from my grandmother at the time was like, really? You're going to go to film school? Yep, Grandma. Okay, what? You didn't want to go to, like, another college? Nope, going to film school. Yeah, so disappoint your family in 5 words. That's a great way to do it, is go to film school. Unless you're from, like, a film legacy family or something, then they're like, no, you have to do this. And those are the kids that go to medical school. They're like, oh, yeah? I'm going to go be a doctor. It's like Michael J. Fox's character on, what's his, Family Ties or whatever. Like, totally. You don't, rebelling can be anything. There's the stereotypical rebelling that you think of, but then, like in my house, we're a bunch of burners and punk rockers, and my wife and I are burners, and I'm punk rocker. It's like, yeah, no, my kid's probably going to grow up be a lawyer. And just, so it, depends on your family how you can disappoint them. Rudy Giuliani's hair is also trending on the social platforms. If you haven't seen this one, he held a news conference the other day, and his hair dye started to drip down his cheek on both sides. Quite embarrassing. And it's getting pretty hilarious with Rudy Giuliani, because you think he can't embarrass himself more, and then hair dye is dripping down his cheek. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Maybe just call it a day. Like, just go call it a day, or take a break. Because it's getting ridiculous. Like, you can't do anything else dumb. Well, never mind. There it is. So Rudy Giuliani's hair trending on social platforms. I'll say people were doing it side by side with Jack Nicholson's Joker, where his makeup is running from I don't want to say the original Batman, but the Batman that had Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton. And they're like, oh, who wore it better? I immediately, when I first saw the picture, I thought of Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element. For those of you that are familiar with The Fifth Element, and just like the streaking down his head, totally Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element, and similar characters. I mean, Gary Oldman's a great actor, and but the character and yeah, maybe similar to Giuliani. Definitely a much younger character. I'm pretty sure Rudy Giuliani's 142, and has just made some kind of deal with the devil to still be able to walk around on this earth, despite the fact that he's 142. Huntington Beach also trending on the social platforms, because Huntington Beach, that's what they do down in Huntington Beach. It's so funny because I think people that live outside of California, they think Huntington Beach is like this glorious beach city, and it's like, it's a great beach city, but yeah, it is not. It is not a progressive area of Southern California by any means. So they took to the streets last night, and we're going to talk some more about that. No, actually, no, yeah, we'll talk about that more when we get to COVID, and specifically what was going on down there in Huntington Beach. Unpack that a little, because it's pretty ridiculous. But before we get to that, I want to talk about our positive news story of the week. That's right, positive news story of the week. Excuse me, everybody. It's a dry weather that's happening right now. My hands are like, I've got the dry throat and mouth, and my hands are actually starting to crack. Every year this happens around this time of year. As fall gets into full swing and in winter, and I just I get real dry skin. It's horrible, that winter skin. Positive news. Nandi Bushnell Nandi Bushnell. If you haven't heard that name, you've actually probably seen her scrolling through as you've been scrolling through social platforms and stuff. This is the drum prodigy. She lives in the UK, and you've seen her doing drum covers for people. And she actually, Dave Grohl had reached out to her. There was some back and forth kind of on social media, and they're like, "Oh, Dave Grohl's a big fan of Nandi Bushnell and everything else." Well, they actually finally connected Nandi and Dave Grohl via, I assume, Zoom, because all the video chatting is now Zoom, but through one of the video chatting platforms. They actually got to meet face-to-face on video, obviously, because even if they were in the same country, they probably wouldn't be getting together right now because of everything going on with COVID. And I encourage you to check out this video, because just to see the positive nature and the genuine reaction really from both of them, not just from this young 10-year-old girl who plays drums incredibly well, but also from Dave Grohl, who you can see his enthusiasm. And who doesn't love Dave Grohl? I mean, I was watching one of the Sesame Street episodes that he was on the other day with my daughter, and you see this. And my wife even comes out. She's like, "Have you ever seen somebody so excited to be on Sesame Street, like a guest? You know, because if you're familiar with Sesame Street, all kinds of guests popping up." Like John Legend's been on there 15 times, like sings a song, and all kinds of guests. And Dave Grohl, fantastic. And you know that there's a genuine excitement when he does certain things, and you could see that on his face just these clips of this video call. And in fact, he's planning to write a song together with Nandi, and hopefully, and also specified that once COVID is over, next time the Foo Fighters are in the UK, that she's going to be welcomed up on stage to play a song with them. Pretty freaking cool. And I know I said all people are horrible. Dave Grohl might be one of the exceptions. Now that I say that, we'll probably see something come out this week. Damn it, Dave. Just sung your praises. But good on you, Dave Grohl. Good on you, Nandi Bushnell. Really looking forward to following this and seeing what kind of song they actually put out. I'm positive they will actually write a song and put out the song. I'm positive of that. This isn't one of those, pandering to kids, like, "Oh, yeah, we'll write a song." And a year later, Nandi's like, "Hey, Dave." And he's like, "Who? New phone. Who dis?" That's what the kids say, right? New phone. Who dis? I can't believe I just said that on the fucking podcast. All right, COVID updates. For those of you not familiar, Los Angeles is now under a curfew. They rolled back a lot of the stuff that had opened up. I won't get into specifics. It is funny because this all came down the other day, and I was like, "Uh-oh, we're going to be under curfew." And "Uh-oh, honey, look." And I'm saying to my wife, and I'm like, "Oh, it's this and this and this." And she's like, "So nothing changed for us, right?" And I was like, "No, because we weren't going out to restaurants and doing all this stupid shit anyway. I wasn't out after 10 p.m., maybe out in my backyard or something, which I was out there spray painting my grill at 10:30 last weekend. That was fun. But it didn't really change anything for us. And I said this last week, for the people that are like, "Oh, this is going to completely change my social life." Yeah, you're part of the problem. That's why, is because you've continued to have a ridiculous social life through all of this and just ignore everything that's going on. So the curfew is 10 p.m. You got to be at your home after 10 p.m. in Los Angeles right now, unless you're working. You're an essential worker and you're working. Then those are obvious exceptions. So it's going to be interesting to see how we move forward. And we've already seen blowback. As I mentioned, in Huntington Beach, they held a rally last night to protest the authoritarian restrictions that have been put in place for the state of California. People in Huntington, they don't want to wear masks. They don't want to be told to go home at 10 p.m. And I will say, I know 10 p.m. is a rather arbitrary time. And there's been a lot of jokes, and I get it. I think it's funny. People are like, "Oh, got home by 10 p.m. COVID can't get me now." Or like, "Oh, I stayed out till 10:01. Now the COVID got..." I get it. It is arbitrary. It's not that COVID stops trying to infect you. I think the best example of this is the World Series that was happening down there in Texas. Even if you don't follow the World Series, there's a radio personality, Steve Mason, who went to the World Series down there in Texas. And he said, and he had talked about Texas, how people weren't wearing masks in general down there. But in the stadium, most people were wearing masks. However, as the game progressed, people had a few drinks, then masks started coming off. So when you think about that is a lot of the reasoning behind a 10 p.m. curfew. Because people Maybe they're going out and they are sitting at an doing outdoor dining at a restaurant and having a couple drinks. Once you get past 10 p.m., then people are they're going to be drinking, they're going to be having fun, and suddenly they're not even thinking about those kind of restrictions. So yes, is it funny? Yeah, absolutely. But is there some reasoning behind it? 100%. So think about that. That's really what it is. Yes, is it an arbitrary time? Maybe, but it's got to be some time. And they're trying to keep people from partying too hard and then getting real careless out there in the world. And a great example of that was the World Series. And I know it's happening at other sporting events, but I've heard this firsthand account from Steve Mason, who's a personality on ESPN Radio here in Los Angeles. So, take from that what you will. And like I said, changed nothing for me. So, hopefully it didn't really change anything for you. And you're more just disappointed that we're now kind of taking a step back as opposed to a step forward like we were hoping to. In fact, toilet paper is selling out again. Yes, toilet paper sold out across the country. Costco, from what I understand here in the Costco near me, which would be Atwater Village in Los Angeles, totally sold out of toilet paper. And apparently my Vons the other day was sold out of toilet paper. But on the other hand, it's not too crazy. My wife went to the grocery store on Friday, fairly early in the day, and it wasn't too bad. And I'd asked, I was like, were shelves empty? And she's like, no. The only thing is she didn't go down the toilet paper aisle. I'm stocked up on toilet paper. I get toilet paper through Amazon subscription, so I don't even think about buying toilet. It just shows up. I'm like, oh, here's my box of toilet paper, and, rolls of toilet paper. So I'm sure that aisle was empty, but, I mean, it's really fun. It's wild. And I'm not going to sit here and criticize anyone. If you feel the need to stock up on toilet paper, stock away. Just try to leave some for other people. And I said this back in early on in the pandemic, in the quarantine. Toilet paper is very important. But as long as you have a detachable shower head, you've technically got a bidet in your bathroom. Think about that. Maybe you don't need toilet paper. Don't flush paper towels. You can't flush other things. Also keep that in mind. So if you're running out of toilet paper and you got to use something else, just don't flush it. All right, enough about toilet paper replacements. There was a homecoming party in Missouri. You heard that right, a homecoming party in Missouri. A couple of parents organized a party for about 200 high school kids at a restaurant, private party. They circumvented a lot of the rules and, in fact, kept it super hush-hush to the point where they weren't even able to do any serious real contact tracing from these kids. So far, they've found 7 cases that have spawned from this homecoming party, and that's without real contact tracing. So we're going to see more and more of this. It's selfishness. It sucks. I get it, but it's just selfishness. That's all it is. Your homecoming, get the fuck over yourselves. Your homecoming is not more important than the livelihood of people in your community. It's not. And that's the other thing is everybody falls back on this, but the economy. The economy has nothing to do with your fucking homecoming party. Nothing. Yes, you rented out a restaurant. Probably some restaurant that was doing just fine to begin with. These are the things that drive me absolutely bonkers. Absolutely. And it's happening with Thanksgiving. Here's the other thing. Postpone homecoming. Who cares? Throw a big homecoming party in May. Do homecoming and prom. Do it all. Who cares? Push it back. We shouldn't let a calendar dictate when we can do things. Same thing with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving travel is going crazy right now. The CDC came out and said that you should not travel for Thanksgiving. So, of course, what do people in this country do? They flock to airports and start traveling for fucking Thanksgiving. Because you have to travel and see family, otherwise turkey doesn't taste like turkey. I mean, that's what I get out of this. For the love of God, it is Thanksgiving. It's an arbitrary holiday based on something not good, not good history about this country. Really, let's not get that twisted. And it's a holiday that revolves around eating dinner. Get your family on a Zoom call, have dinner, set up your Zoom call, and have dinner on the table. Boom, done. You're just eating. It's Thanksgiving, but people got to travel like crazy. It blows my mind. And it same goes for Christmas, but at least with Christmas, I kind of get it. It's like, okay, this is a big family holiday, but Thanksgiving? Give me a break. You don't even understand what you're celebrating. You're celebrating a turkey in the middle of it. Come on. I will say there's some good news from Zoom. That they have lifted. There's apparently a 40-minute limit on Zoom. I don't use a lot of Zoom, but when I use Zoom, I use it with people that have the premium accounts, and I end up on Zoom for like 2 hours having a couple drinks with a couple friends. But I think there's a 40-minute limit if you have like the free account. They've lifted that limit for Thanksgiving just so that families can get on Zoom and have a Zoom Thanksgiving meal with their families instead of traveling. Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm sure that's what we're going to do in my house. I know my wife picked up turkey breast, and we got some potatoes and some other things, and that's going to be Thanksgiving. Watch a little football, have a nice tasty drink, and that'll be my Thursday. All right. Let's get on into some mental health. Oh, boy. I don't have anything too crazy this week, but with Thanksgiving coming up and the holidays coming up, I just want to, people are going to get pressured. And I know what that's like because there's such a difference in the spectrum of where people are. We go from, oh my God, everybody stay home. If you don't stay home, you're going to die, to, oh my God, this is a hoax. Everybody just go live your life, And I'm not all the way here, but I'm, I don't think I'm going to die. I need to stay home, otherwise. But it's got me thinking about pressure that you get from families, especially when it comes to getting together for Thanksgiving, for the holidays, whatever it might be. Especially if you have kids, maybe you're getting pressured from your parents, your aunts and uncles, your relatives who want to see those kids. I totally get it. But I bring this up because your mental health, you shouldn't sacrifice your mental health to make other people happy, especially in this situation. Now, it's one thing, sometimes you're like, well, I don't want to go to this party, or I don't want to go to this family. Like, okay, well, maybe suck it up and go for a little bit. I'm not talking about that. Like, oh, I'm going to be inconvenienced a little bit, and in the end, I'm probably going to be okay. I'm talking about where you're in panic attack mode, which many of us can be at this time, especially if you suffer from a mental illness. Good God, I've been dealing with it just way too much lately. Don't give in to those things. Don't let that pressure overtake you. Your mental health is dependent on you being comfortable. And everyone needs that reminder right now, because there's going to be pressure. There's going to be plenty of pressure, and you know it. Now, I'm not getting a bunch personally, but I have felt it. I've seen it out there, And from what we've seen, it's those instances of just letting your guard down for an hour, and suddenly you've got COVID. And we're seeing it's spreading like crazy still. I don't want to talk about numbers and everything. You see, such and such has it now. Such and such has it now. Every day. So don't sacrifice your health, your mental health, for the happiness of others. We're going to have gatherings again. We're going to have holidays again. We're going to have Thanksgiving again. For the love of God, push Thanksgiving, just like with the homecoming. Have a Thanksgiving meal in April when it's safer. When we get even just a little bit safer, have one then. They sell turkeys year-round. I don't know if you need to hear this, but they sell turkeys year-round. They sell booze year-round. And thank God we're not revolving the holiday around Black Friday this year, because that's the other thing, too. Oh, the holidays. But we live in such a consumerist society that it's not even the holidays. Everything revolves around fucking Black Friday deals. Thank God that's not happening this year. It's happening online. And I'm actually paying close attention because some of the bands are doing their Black Friday deals on their merch. And I would say that's a general life lesson. Don't let anyone dictate how you feel. Take care of yourself first and foremost, and then take care of others. Now, that's a very subjective thing because, if you're a parent, you should take care, without sacrificing your health, you should take care of your kids and then worry about yourself. But you understand what I'm getting at here. Fill your own cup first, and then start filling other people's cups. That's just even if you don't have mental health issues and mental illness, that's a general just life lesson to have. You're going to be happier, and honestly, people around you are going to be happier. A lot of times it's just ignorance. People don't realize they're taking advantage of others because it seems so minuscule. It just has to be pointed out. You don't point it out in a mean way. Just be like, no, you know what? No. I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to take a break from this discussion, whatever it might be. It's not up to you to sacrifice for others. And especially when it's pretty obvious and it's a safety thing. People should be sacrificing for you. not for you personally, but everybody should be sacrificing right now for the greater good and the health of everyone around the world and in this country, but it's just not happening. All right, parenting. I got a couple parenting things. Actually, some good news. I was pretty upset about this, and I believe I mentioned it on one of the previous episodes. Apple had secured the rights to all of the Peanuts holiday specials, starting with The Great Pumpkin. The Great Pumpkin was not on network television for the first time in, since it was made or something like that. Well, the uproar, it got back to Apple, and Apple actually cut a deal with PBS. They are going to be airing, I believe the Thanksgiving special is airing tonight on PBS, ad-free, and then the Peanuts Christmas special is going to air in December on PBS, ad-free as well. This is great news because I think these are just such well-known specials, generational specials that my parents enjoy, I enjoy, my kid enjoys. I mean, there's generations of kids and parents and adults that love these things, and there's certain things, and I say, and not everyone likes sports, but I say this about sports. Certain things should just be on broadcast television. And the Peanut Specials is absolutely one of them. And now we are going to get it on PBS. Now, of course, keep in mind, you can just buy these, I don't have Apple TV, like the premium package in my house, but we own the DVDs. We've got the, Great Pumpkin, Thanksgiving, which I watched Thanksgiving for the first time last year. I never watched Thanksgiving as a kid, and then Christmas. I watched a lot of Great Pumpkin, and Christmas were big ones for me. So mark your calendars if you don't have them on DVD and you don't have the Apple TV Premium. Tonight, Thanksgiving, and then, of course, more importantly, and nothing against the Thanksgiving one, more importantly, the Christmas special will be airing on PBS in December. And one more hot little tip for those of you, depending on the age of your kids, something my daughter has gotten into recently, and there's a lot of great things about it, is a show called Emily's Wonderlab on Netflix. This is on, so if you have a Netflix subscription, you've already got it. Emily's Wonderlab, and Emily actually basically does science experiments with kids in studio, and it's learning about science. Now, the cool thing about it is they are simpler experiments. It's not like you go into a chemistry lab with beakers and everything and like no, it's simple science experiments that kids find fun. Younger kids find fun and then also get educated about it. And the coolest part that I like about it is usually at the end of every episode, they kind of show you how to make something. They usually build something, air power or, whatever it might be. Like they've done oobleck, that kind of stuff. And they show you at the end of every episode usually how to, at least to an extent, replicate that at home. So it's educational for kids, but also fun because they're seeing kids. The experiments are fun, and the kids all have fun with it. And then at the end, they show you like, hey, look, you can do this in your home. So really, if you haven't heard of this one and you have kids of a certain age, if you have teenagers, they're not going to be interested in this. But if you have younger kids, they're absolutely going to be interested in Emily's Wonderlab on Netflix. So check that out. Educational and interactive. It's a great one. And I think Emily, I don't know her last name, but she seems like a great personality for the show. And I believe she's like MIT educated. One of those. I saw something that she's like actually a, not just a personality where they're like, here, use this balloon. She's educated and knows what she's talking about, not just reading off a script. So that's extra interesting. All right, we got some entertainment news. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's finally happening. I think when COVID, the pandemic started, we were like, well, at least we're going to get some good music. And we've been getting good music all year. But I think now we're hitting this wave of new music that's coming out. And it seems like December is the one. We already know Less Than Jake. They have their new album coming out in December. They released a new track the other day. I think they're up to 3 tracks now released from their upcoming album that you can pre-order. And more importantly, I don't know if it's more importantly, but new news just recently is they are actually doing a live stream in December. So if you're interested in a Less Than Jake live stream, check that out on Facebook. I know you'll be able to get all the information. I don't have the date in front of me, but, Google. It's a thing. You guys can do this. I don't just top line stuff here. Goldfinger, they announced recently they have a new album coming out December 4th. There is a new song that is out from that album. It's a great single. Really enjoy it. I'm a big Goldfinger fan. I like John Feldman. So, depends on what your cup of tea is, but new Goldfinger album coming out in December. And The Network, not not Green Day, but the network that we know is Green Day playing under another moniker. They have a new album coming out December 4th as well. It's obviously Green Day, and I will say, if you've been following this at all, it's fun, and I get it. Like, the network's like, we have taken over Green Day's Twitter feed. There's a little Easter egg in there on one of them that they're like, we are not Green Day, and we warned you that back in 2003 that we would put out new music in 2020 if things something. It says in that tweet, and I quote, "We are at threat level midnight." For those of you that not aware of what threat level midnight is, somehow I turned that into a tongue twister. Threat level midnight is the name of a screenplay starring the character Michael Scarn, written by the character Michael Scott of The Office. Threat level midnight. So they're obviously having fun with it, but we all know it's Green Day. I'll be interested to check that out in December as well. Just tons of new music, and we're going to continue following that because I think more and more is going to come out. We're going to get albums coming out in January here because so many bands have been working on albums. I think we had that first wave because bands that were releasing albums, in the spring and summer, they either released them on time, like the Bomb Pops, whose album dropped the day that it went crazy here in L.A., and then some bands moving up their album release because they couldn't tour anyway and just kind of getting out there. And now we're getting into the wave of what bands have been working on since they weren't able to tour, since they've been stuck at home. And that's kind of, we're going to get more and more of these, I'm sure. I'm hearing rumors of a new Rancid album, too. And we know the Interrupters started working on an album before the pandemic hit. So there's stuff. Just got to be patient. It's coming down the line here. Unwritten Law is another one. Unwritten Law. They have new music in the can already. I don't know when the hell they're releasing that album, but Unwritten Law's got new music coming. Oh, The Mandalorian. I actually started watching this. It's fine. I don't know. It's fine. It's something to watch. I didn't freak. I wasn't like, oh my God. I wasn't in tears watching The Mandalorian, the first episode. Now, I think had I not known the little Yoda, was coming, I might have been like, oh my God, that is cute. But I'd seen it. So it's like, oh yeah, here's the Yoda coming out. All right. Nothing against it. It seems like a fine show. It's just, and maybe it was overhyped for me. But I was like, okay, this is fine. I'll continue to watch this. But they had their own production mistake, a la Game of Thrones coffee cup. Apparently a crew member is in one of the shots. A crew member wearing jeans is in one of the shots. So these things happen. And it's funny because these things have happened since the beginning of entertainment and cinema and television. Like, there are Academy Award-winning films that have weird mistakes in them that made the final cut. These things happen. It's more obvious now that we live in such a small world with social media, and people are able to point these things out and have fun with it and make memes or whatever the hell you do. So, of course, this is just going to give Mandalorian kind of some more press and recognition and marketing. So it's kind of brilliant. I wouldn't be surprised if they just had a crew. They're like, hey, dude, stand right here. You're still hearing about the coffee cup. I saw these and they were like, oh, the Mandalorian had a Starbucks coffee cup mistake. Like, really? So we're just going to call it a Starbucks. Okay, that's what it's called now. Disney World. Oh, wow. This one I like. Disney World. This came up recently, this past week at Disney World. They're actually stopping indoor rides now for people taking off their masks. There's that, I can't remember the name of the ride, but there's where it takes you through the decades, and you sit and you watch animatronic stuff. This past week, they actually stopped the ride and the crew member, and it's completely dark in the theater. But trust me, even when you're in a dark spot, you are being watched at Disneyland or Disney World. Back in the 90s, there was one spot, and I'm not even going to tell you where it was, and it's actually not a spot anymore, but there's one spot in the entire park that you knew you were not on camera. Now, when I was in high school, we used that spot for nefarious things. Not horribly nefarious things, but that's where we would, go and smoke a little pot as we were enjoying the park. Don't recommend that for kids. This podcast not for kids. Tell your kids, don't do that. But what they're doing now is they are stopping these rides and telling people to put their masks back on. Immediately when I was like, good on you, Disney. Let's keep the freaking masks on. But it also got me thinking back in the 90s. This was a problem with the Haunted Mansion here at Disneyland in the 90s is teenagers would get on that and they would start making out. And maybe a little more than making out. Stuff was going on that ride. When you rode that back, there was a time period in the 90s, because I grew up in Southern California, and when it was inexpensive to go to, you could go to Disneyland for like $20 back in the 90s, and we just drive up on a Saturday, like hour and a half drive from San Diego, where I grew up as a teenager, and boom, we're at Disneyland. So we went a lot, and there was a period of time where we didn't even want to go on Haunted Mansion, because you'd go on Haunted Mansion and it would stop 5, 6, 7, 8 times throughout the ride, because then some security come out and be like, stop that. Ride starts, and the lights come on. You're like, well, this is ruining the magic of the Haunted Mansion. The lights are on. It's just, but Disney's always watching. Always watching. Even when you think you're in the dark, always watching. Oh, man. But good on them. I'm glad they're doing this. All right, Blaze Media Podcast. You ever heard of that? I don't know. I hadn't until the past couple days. Blaze Media Podcast. They apparently do some kind of podcast. I don't even know where they're out of, because I didn't even want to give them kind of airtime, I guess. They lost a sponsorship from Black Rifle Coffee. If you've never heard of Black Rifle Coffee, it's a coffee company called Black Rifle and has rifles on their coffee. So apparently this Blaze Media Podcast, they had the Kyle Rittenhouse as a guest on there, and then took a picture and posted it. They had Ricky, whatever. I don't want to talk about him either, but they had the murderer from Wisconsin, who's out on $2 million bail right now, because that's what we do in this country. We let good people starve, and we spend $2 million letting a bad, horrible murderer back out on the street. But priorities in this country, it's real good. So they took a photo at the end of the podcast and posted it, and Kyle Rittenhouse is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee shirt. So, of course, Black Rifle Coffee pulls their sponsorship from the Blaze Media Podcast. Here's the thing. I just want to unpack this for a sec. Blaze Media Podcast, you should know better. This is your sponsor. Maybe don't do that. On the other side of things, the name of your company is Black Rifle Coffee. So maybe one of the heroes of the NRA and people that are out there for that kind of justice, I wouldn't be shocked that he's wearing a Black Rifle Coffee shirt. It's like, what do you expect? It's just, it blows my mind. And I'm not saying Black Rifle Coffee has anything to do with, obviously it has something to do with guns. I don't know if it's a super conservative. I don't know much about it. I've heard of it, and that's it. But you can't be shocked. For the love of God. It's called Black Rifle Coffee. It actually fits in. We've seen the Proud Boys take over Fred Perry shirts, and that has nothing to do with the Proud Boys. At least it's guns. It's a kid that brought a gun and murdered people. Like, what do you expect? I'm not saying change your name, but just don't be shocked. Don't be shocked. And Blaze Media Podcast, be smarter with your sponsors. All right, I'm going to leave you with one more thing before we finish up for this week. If you ever wondered what it's like to live in Canada, there's a certain area of Canada right now where the town has had to put up signs telling people to not let moose lick their car. The gigantic moose that look real cute in like cartoons and stuff, and then you realize that they're fucking giants. Like, but the dude in the cartoon's like the same size as the moose, but that moose is 15 times the size of me. Whoa, I don't know. But anyway, in Canada, because Canada, they have to tell people to not let moose lick their cars. Now, apparently, moose really like salt. And they have learned, instead of like foraging out in the forest to find salt in natural places, that they can go and lick cars, and get the salt from the, salt in the roadways off the cars. So people have been told, please don't let moose lick your cars, because they're getting way too comfortable with people and cars, which makes sense. And I'll tell you, because Canada, and I know there's moose in the United States too. It's just, I live in Southern California. Like, there's no moose here. Like, we got bobcats and mountain lions, but no moose here. No moose here. But apparently, and they were saying because they can be extra dangerous, because if moose are approaching a car and you're driving, your car takes out their legs, and then the moose basically just comes through. And I don't, this is serious, but I'm only laughing because it's so foreign to me. The moose comes through your windshield because you take out the legs, just boom. It's like, okay, that's good enough reason for me to not let moose lick my car. But most importantly, don't let moose lick your car, because Canada. Canada. I love Canada, man. I kind of want to move to Canada. I'm sick of this country. I'll live with the moose. I don't care. Just won't let them lick my car. Oh. On that note, don't let any moose lick your car. no matter where you are, especially if you're in Canada. But it's probably a good idea not to let that happen anywhere. Just a hot tip. I would just run from a moose. I've never seen one in person, but I've seen like pictures, and you're just like, oh my, oh no, I'd rather tangle with a mountain lion. At least a mountain lion's like kind of my size. I don't know. All right. Oh man. All right, wall fans, common sensors. That's gonna do it for us this week. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Also, my own personal Instagram account, which is SoCalSean, and YouTube. Head over to YouTube, search Go Tell It to the Wall, and subscribe to our channel. Most importantly, SeanO'RourkeLive.com, your one-stop shop for all those things I just mentioned, as well as exclusive content you can't find anywhere else, and our Patreon and merch. Get your holiday shopping done early with our merch page there. All right. This has been episode 27 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We will be back next week. Same wall place, same wall time. And until then, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.